So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's session, episode 4th and of Manthan. So, here we have a new set of panelists out here, and we have a new guest who is the moderator. She is a filmmaker, independent documentary filmmaker, and she is a person who has been part of learning and development. And she's a, if I start giving her introduction, the entire half an hour will be less to do that. So, I'll share her introduction in the group specifically. Yeah. So and I know that I'm placing the panelists in the safe hands, and over to you. And so before just want all of you to ensure that I've already put a message, but if you want to invite others as well, please do invite for the session. So that's it. That's the introduction that I would like to give. So over to you.
Thank you so
Anuradha
much. You
Bansal.
did play very safe, Lynn, so I must say that. Okay, so before I introduce my speakers for today, Arpita and Prabodh, I just wanted to give my 2 cents into what I thought about rethinking people management. So a recent extenuating catastrophe that the world went through urged us to settle our life intent well, whereas the jobs we provide for had a stern look for the challenges it paddled through. The time couldn't have been better for both the employer and employee stakeholders to have each other's back. Yet we gather here in this year of attrition to talk and talk well as we want to rethink people management. Before the management comes people. If we think about people, people management would automatically be rethought through. Before I give the stage to my speakers, let me introduce you to both Arpita and Prabodh. Starting with Prabodh, he is enjoying his journey in banking, serving governments, large corporations, PSUs, and institutions. He's had exposure in customer service, operations, business development, relationship management, and people management. Worked in Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad, Chandigarh, Shimla, and Rohtak. Currently, that's heavy duty. Okay, let's moving on to Arpita. She has 20 years of corporate experience, a Deloitte who's been a strategic HR leader, talent development, trainer, auditor, assists HR support groups, organic farming, CSR, published poet, that's interesting, translations of articles on spiritual growth and wellness, all encompassing, I guess. 18 years in service sector, now in manufacturing sector, working in talent development for AMEI sector in Air Liquide. So thank you so much for joining us, Prabodh and Arpita. I just wanted to share my own personal experience when I think about personal development or people management. When I used to work in my previous job, one of my manager would come seeking for clarity on quality issues. So it gave me confidence about my own subject knowledge, and I saw an acknowledgement of worth I added to my team. In a short span, I was promoted to the quality team. So people need acknowledgement of their being. They want to belong. And when they do so, they own the process and feel responsibility generated by a sense of duty. So now moving on to Prabodh and Arpita to share their knowledge from their repertoire of corporate experience. Employees today want to be treated as people, not just workers. Considering how dynamics have changed world over, what's needed in the change of emphasis to human deal? Prabodh, should I come to you if you would like to answer that?
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, and good evening to all esteemed guests over here. So I would want to start with very basic human need, which is there, like you said, acknowledgement. So I believe basically there are three needs whenever we go to a workplace. The first one is trust. We want to be trusted. The next one is safety. We want to feel safe, and we want to feel connected. So if these three basic needs of human beings are met while working, that human being is automatically motivated to work for the organization and work towards the goal which the organization has set for the team, for the organization, for that particular individual. So I believe if as an organization, as a manager, if I'm able to instill these three basic traits while interacting with any employee and every employee, they feel that they are being treated as human beings and not just workers, not just an employee number, not just an employee ID. The very basic things that we follow with our children, they apply here as well. Like, how to do this, how to ensure that people are feeling what we are saying. uh, First thing would be, we need to praise them in public and correct them in private, like we do with our kids. These basic parenting things are actually applicable in leadership as well, when we are interacting with our employees, our subordinates. And like this COVID happened, and everyone was caught. It was a very shocking and surprising thing for everyone. But actually genuine concern about the well-being of people, all those leaders, all those managers who actually showed genuine concern towards their people, they stood out. They stood out in retaining their people, retaining talent, despite all the challenges. They actually stood out, and their people felt like, being treated as human beings.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so these are the basic things which I think are
Actually, we
important.
took
Yeah,
work to their homes. So
yeah.
now we cannot just separate both of it, like life and work separately. So we cannot just say that, okay, life is over when you are at work and now have got no relation with you. We have to take genuine interest in their own life as well. Arpita, would you like to add something over here?
Sure. And thank you for having me in this prestigious program. Adding to what Pramod said, see, these are interesting times. The world sure has gone through its times of turbulence, and it is continuing. But the very workforce is not just in a hybrid, but in a remote world. We are seeing managers who are millennials now, and in this era of inclusion and promoting women in leadership and in the workforce, the human element is at its core, not just as managers and leaders, but within each of us, to inculcate that empathy, the listening quality, and ensuring basic wellness for all to should be in a score. So driving from this, I would say that as a leader, the vision and the values of the organization has to be central. It has to be communicated per se in this myriad, the workforce that is there. And by workforce, I just not don't meet the employees, but we also have gig workers, project workers in an engineering sector like mine. We have also stakeholders, whether it's the vision from the board or it's for customers demanding, let's say, a focus on more decarbonization, saving our planet. There are so many finer nuances, and each of our roles have to be defined in a way that is not just performance and contribution to the profit, but development of us whole and giving it back to society. So definitely the human element is in its core. It has to be felt from within. The passion has to be driven from the top, but inculcated by all within. So that's the challenge in this era.
Can you think of any tool or maybe a way that this can be inculcated?
See, I can give an example from Air Liquide. We are into right currently into mobilization of gases, for instance, hydrogen mobility, and the lights that you see flickering on Eiffel Tower are from the hydrogen fuels created by Air Liquide. So decarbonization is one of our main goals as part of the strategy, and what is being adopted as a achieving carbon neutrality by 2050 is a goal for all 65,000 employees of Air Liquide. So we filter it down to individual goals. So as an HR, learning about that technology means promoting more women to join in this field of STEM, and which is more difficult. The science, technology, engineering, mathematics, inviting more women in this field, creating a work ecosystem that shifts and feels safe at the same time. So each of us are contributing, we are upskilling, we are giving them international mobility, stretch assignments, so that they grow, they are able to contribute with their innovative ideas, and we can directly translate it into that goal of achieving. We are already on the way of decarbonization, but achieving it within the strategic framework. So that's just one thing that came to my
Great.
mind.
So I think the organization needs to support, but at the same time, give them autonomy over their course of action.
Absolutely.
Trust them that they can be autonomous. So fantastic. I think you partly also took over my next question, which I was going to move
Anuradha, sorry, we can't hear you.
into, which was related to people management. How can it be accomplished without thinking? Oh, really? Am I audible
You're
now?
audible. You're audible. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
Talking about people
Yes, you are.
management, how can it be accomplished without rethinking leadership? How do leaders rethink their traditional role bearing? You could take it from the L&D perspective, T&D perspective, and leaders as such, because the organizational leadership percolates down to how the leadership develops in the organization. So maybe if you want to speak a little bit, maybe you just carried with this question, you've answered partly. I'll move.
So I believe the leadership actually needs to rethink the entire spectrum. From L&D perspective or from business perspective, first of all, leaders need to be having a coaching mindset. I practically believe that that's actually lacking. So the first job of a leader is not to get the people achieve their targets. The first job is to make people capable of achieving the target. Then only they can achieve any particular target. For that we need good. I'm not saying that every leader has to be a coach, but at least the mindset should that be of a coaching mindset. That's the first thing. I believe that the first and foremost thing, that's the central thing. The other thing is the leaders need to appreciate diversity in every sense, gender or background, ethnic background, or even the education background. Gone are the days of industrial era, when a certain type of people could do that job. So just to give my example, I am a zoology honors graduate working in a bank since last 15 years. So zoology and banking don't go hand in hand. So that's the diversity part. So and the other thing is where the first step where we are actually not going right currently is we need to hire right people with the right skills. So today the way disruption is happening and the way the dynamics which are required at any level, people should be comfortable with ambiguity and change. Normally we are so much into our comfort zone that we don't want to change. That's the first skill I actually look for anyone I am going to hire in my team. That person should be comfortable with with the discomfort. Then the person has to have some complex thinking skills. That person has to have some thinking skills that he can think out of the box. That's where again diversity comes in. And the person has to be a collaborative person, not a competitive person. So our education system has instilled so much of competitiveness in us that we actually don't collaborate. We are so insecure in collaborating. So that's these are certain things which the leaders actually need to rethink. And I can see that happening on the ground. Is it is actually happening, and I'm actually happy about it that people are actually trying to coach people. They are trying to appreciate diversity, and they are very clear in their communication nowadays. They actually show tough love to their people. So that these are certain things I think rethinking needs to happen.
You want to add anything, Arpita, over here?
Yeah, the interesting point which Prabodh mentioned on coaching, I can see a lot of reverse mentoring also happening in this era of AI and chatbots and chat GPTs. It is also relying on the young shoulders of a lot of our the graduate trainees, the interns who are joining in, who are now teaching some of us on the various tech aspects that are coming in. And I was reading an interesting fact today that in this coming year, some 45,000 plus jobs are expected in the field of AI. And in India alone, and the starting salary would be somewhere in the range of 14 lakh CTC. So these are interesting days. I don't see HR disappearing with AI coming in, or leadership, in fact, an aid to us. It would support any leader will agree on this. The kind of analysis which is available to make impartial, unbiased decision making it's you know, the future is only looking brighter, and we each have to ensure, and as leaders, we have to drive that passion down from the Gen X to the millennials to update, upscale, provide these bubble assignments, stretch assignments, so that each of us are with it for the next 20 years. There's so much development on in the world, and we have to participate and contribute to it. So
My God,
that's what I
Arpita,
just
you are
wanted to
very
add to
intuitive
it.
because my next question was a follow on to this is in fact. But before I
Great
jump
minds
on to
think alike.
the yes. So before I move on to the next question, Prabodh, you mentioned some very interesting points, like, coaching is the starting point. You do not coach, you do not get, it's a long way route. But let's suppose when the leaders, they see that they do not have much scope for coaching because it needs time. And the way the world is changing, you rapidly want someone to be on the job. How do you achieve that when the coaching, the long way is not a solution? Is there a
Yeah,
way
yeah.
you can think
In
of?
fact, this is a common problem with the managers. Whenever you say that, okay, you need to have a coaching mindset, they think, okay, I don't have time for coaching and mentoring the kids who are coming up. But you can do it while you're working. You don't need a separate time for that. I've done it in last 5-6 years handling teams. I've done it myself, and it is actually, once you start doing it, it gets into your, so the basic thing is, whenever you are giving anything, you are delegating anything, you have to give proper instructions. That's the only thing, right? So normally what we do, whenever we delegate, a lot of ambiguity there. So that's the starting point. And you don't need separate time for coaching. It's not that you need to sit after office hours to coach someone. I think it can be done while you're working and while you're doing things. But the first thing is, the manager himself or herself need to be confident about the work, right? That's a given, that's important. If the
So you
manager
are
himself or herself is not not capable, then there is a problem. Yeah.
So we have someone Pramod, you are an example, moving from zoology to banking. That is a very self-driven motivation to join a certain sector, which is so different from your educational background. So you're speaking from the point of view of self-drivenness. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I'll move on to my next question. Be humble to manage people how they need to be managed and not how you want them to be managed. Is there a rethinking of management the agile way? Arpita, because you already was intuitively carrying on the next step for me to question, no, Prabodh.
Yeah. Um, I'll in fact, it's an interesting point. Need this are as leaders in the knowledge sense of it. It's important to be truthful, be someone who's open to criticism, for instance, or judgment, and lay it out there that these are the problems I'm seeking solutions for. I don't have the answers. How can you support me in this? I'm not saying that letting go or not giving deadlines, but the autonomy, like you mentioned earlier, is important to be laid. The trust, the respect that is garnered then adds multifold. So that vulnerability is an important fact of it, like a servant leadership we call, somebody who's there for the team, building of teams. The vision has to be clearly articulated, like Pramod mentioned, it has to be communicated very well down the line. The leader has to probably monitor management at all times. You see what goals are being set, how it's been clearly managed and percolated down the line. The employee or the concerned individual has to build the passion for it. So once you're able to connect the dots that why this goal has been set up, what can you provide to it, and of course follow it up with rewards, with recognition, and the various other factors. But at the core, a vulnerable and a supportive leader is essential. It is important to regain that trust and respect for sure.
So I'll be opening the floor for questions in last few minutes, but before I just wanted to let you guys know. So we still have time, and Prabhu, do you want to add anything to this rethinking of education?
Yeah, and Arpita had mentioned this very beautifully, vulnerability point. Apart from vulnerability, I believe there are two, three more qualities which, which a humble leader usually possesses. The first thing is that there is no insecurity in that particular leader. So they don't want people become leaders, in fact, better than them. And they do make good leaders. Then they have compassion, they are good listeners, they are very collaborative, they are very curious. So like Arpita started her talk with that only, that there are people who are learning from younger people, the new generation, the new technologies they are learning. The issue, the main issue which practically we face is that the lack of confidence. So that's where the leaders need to be somewhat assertive. Being humble is good, but being assertive is very, very important. Otherwise, they are mostly, most of the humble leaders are taken for granted within the organization as well as with their own people. So it's important for the leaders to understand that, okay, you have to be humble, but at the same time, please be assertive. Ensure that
Yeah.
you are not taken for a ride. So that's the point I wanted to add.
So many organizations, they are basically moving towards flatter organization. And I think what you both are speaking about has got more to do with how the leadership is letting the boundaries fall and mingling with people in designation and making it like a flatter organization. And secondly, peer-to-peer accountability. So only a leader, true leader who really wants to see growth in people would let peers, you know, I would say assess each other, and that's like a very healthy way of moving forward than just look down upon, as she was
Absolutely.
mentioning, like an helicopter. Okay, so let me just move on to my question, the next question. How does one rethink performance management? Because, we spoke about people, we spoke about people management, we spoke about leadership, we spoke about agility. But the crux of the matter is, how do we rethink performance management when it is the most critically important capability, marching art? I mean, okay, anyone,
Who
maybe
goes first?
Arpita, you want to add something because you very intuitively, anyways, directed.
Yeah. So if I say performance here, would also agree that those annual appraisal form filling days are gone for sure. It's more of robust, on the time, on the day feedback, constructive feedback, which is sought by most individuals. And in fact, in our appraisals, we don't really look what has been crossed. We know those figures already. The focus has to be the future, that what next in the next month or quarter or year, where can we go from here? And we also try to encompass some extra financial goals. So it has to be, like I mentioned, contributing to the society or to the world at large. So we invite, for instance, referrals for more women in STEM or women leadership. We encourage that, and then we create mentors for that. So one of the indicators could be somebody who mentors a woman employee from an X level to a more senior level. So what kind of learning or upskilling tasks they can give. So these are finer goals which are embedded in each individual. It helps in our own development along with another individuals. So similarly, some it of course there are performance incentives and there are profits to be earned, but within that time frame, how can we create an additional goal which becomes a self monitoring one? So So if time permits, a quick example is when I was mentioning the decarbonization. One of the goals of a sales team is to encourage the top 50 customers also to enter this goal for themselves to reduce emissions and to attain carbon neutrality in the next number of years. And we have been seeing at least 25% of our customers already in that path. So if we take them along with our vision, it creates that much momentum and motivation in the sales team themselves that we are, adding something extra than just achieving targets. So those goals have to mean something more than just KPIs at the end of the day to be achieved. That's my take
So
on it.
great. Thank you so much, Arpita, for answering that for us. The floor is open for anyone to please put in their question in the chat box before I move on to Prabodh. While you're writing a question, maybe Prabodh can give his idea of, rethinking performance management. So kindly please write down your question. I cannot guarantee how many questions we can take, but we'll just see if we can answer a few.
So yeah, Anuradha. So I've always believed that results and numbers are just people just carrying a target as a limiting number. So if I give a 20% target, the person, sits at 20%, maybe goes to 25%. We have actually experimented that not giving targets to people and asking them to get more market share. So market share is such a metric that, you can encourage people to outperform themselves, to, think what market share you have in, currently in the market from the sales perspective. I'm talking about. And that has actually worked wonders in a lot of organizations and in my organization as well. So rather than thinking about the income number, we are actually now thinking about the market share number, how we can increase our market share. That's the most sensible way. Other points are like ideas and experimentation is something in today's world. More than achieving a particular target, we need more ideas and experimentation, so that we are not stuck in a traditional way of working. And like Arpita had earlier mentioned, that there are you had also mentioned flatter organizations. So we also need to promote vision, understanding, and clarity amongst the new joinees, so that they can become better leaders tomorrow. And we need to incorporate these things in their performance management metric as soon as possible, the leadership traits. So yeah, that's my take on the rethinking of performance management part.
Absolutely. Maybe a tool, if I could mention. Guys, I didn't see any question over here. So maybe just we have like still 3 minutes. So if anyone wants to raise a hand and want to add anything to this session, that would be like fantastic. We could end the session with someone wanting to speak with along with us. But before any like while people are thinking they want to add, okay, great. Deepak ji, I'll give the floor to you, in fact.
No, in fact, I just wanted to thank everybody and wonderful session. Really great inputs from Arpit and Prabodh. Both are very, very impressive and really added value, especially from the performance appraisal perspective, how to rethink and how to see what kind of value addition has been done by the individual rather than focusing on numbers and targets and all those things. I think that is a byproduct. The focus is to get the mindset change for the growth. That's more important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for supporting
I
us
am
with
Devi
with
Shastri
your
here.
appreciation.
Am I
Yes,
audible?
yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are.
Yeah.
Good
Good
evening.
evening,
Very
everybody.
good evening.
It was indeed, in fact, let me introduce, maybe many colleagues are my friends, but those who are not aware, I am Devi Shastri. I am the Vice Chairperson of ISTD Delhi chapter. And I was listening to the talk very carefully. And as Mr. Prabodh said, I fully agree with him, like in the context of coaching. Coaching is a way of life. Just like somebody makes an excuse that I don't have time for coaching. It is just like someone saying It's a way of life. We talk of true leadership. A true leader is a true coach, and it really happens from within. It need not be imposed, and this kind of mindset is the need of the hour. And regarding performance management, also, I uh, have similar views, because these management and all words are good. Performance has not to be managed. Perhaps it is misnomer to call the process as performance management. It is in true sense, it is unleashing the people, because everybody has a tremendous potential. And as always, I'm fond of quoting the Sanskrit shlokas, and one of the powerful shlokas is amantram aksharam nasti moolam anaushadham ayogyah purushah nasti yojakastu tatra durlabha, which means that no alphabet is without meaning, no herb is without medicinal value. And then what? So, the poet says, ayogyah purushah nasti, no one is incompetent. Then it is the dearth of real leaders or managers who can identify the tremendous potential hidden within the human resources, and uh, who make true efforts and genuine efforts to make that power getting unfolded in the interest of the organization, as well as in the interest of development of the individual himself or herself. That's what I want to.
That's wonderfully put, Divi sir. We could not have a more poetic end to our session. Time is limited, else we could have just gone on listening to you. But I
Right.
think Linsu just raised his hand. He just wanted to give a closure to the session. It needs to go. The recording needs to go to so many people. So we'll have to stop the session here, and maybe we stop it with Linsu's
So,
kind and
I'll just take
supportive
a minute.
words.
There
Go
is
ahead,
one
Linsu.
question from Anil Mehta, sir. I think take that up. It says, how can we determine qualitative parameter in performance management, since quality is quite a relative aspect?
Who wants to take this?
I would want
Okay.
to take it. Yeah, I would.
Please go ahead. But Prabodh, just one caveat. Maybe we can keep it
Yeah, yeah.
shorter because we anyway it's running
Yeah.
out. Okay.
So
Yeah.
even see, everything cannot be measured. That's absolutely right. Uh, but at the same time, any qualitative thing also, it stands out. If someone is doing something which is, it's not heard of or not seen, so it is clearly visible. So there cannot be a parameter, there cannot be a metric for that. But we can have a separate reward and recognition for people who are doing such things which cannot be measured. So we need to encourage. That's the point.
Absolutely. In fact, when I was charting the course of this session, even I had this point that we do not need to just stick on to a certain kind of reward. The reward is also driven culturally of how a continuous agile moving forward of how do you keep on customizing yourself in order to see what fits best. Having said that, please, Linsu, go
Thank you
ahead.
so much, Anuradha, for being the moderator in the best possible manner. I mean, I have never seen such a wonderful moderator ever. I'll be very honest. Thank you so much. So, huge round of applause for Anuradha. And obviously, our speakers for the day, Arpita and Prabodh. Arpita, you have given a wonderful, insight in terms of HR aspect and in terms of business. How actually a team should be led, how leadership should, what we should do as a leader. Prabodh, your insights on that parameter also, it's amazing. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you for being in the session. And as we said, that it's bite-sized learning. So we keep it very short. So let's keep it there. See you next time. Thank you so much for joining. Good evening, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you so much, everyone. And good evening, good night to everyone.
Namaste,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.